me now turn to a man who will give us a provocative and broader historical perspective. I don't think I even need to say his name, but Professor Neil Ferguson, what is your take on this? And what are we missing in this conversation this morning?
Thank you, Zanny. I can't match Senator Tillis for rhetorical passion, though I admire the sentiments he just expressed. But I can't help but point out how strange this week has been. This Davos was billed as the spirit of dialogue. But the dialogue that I've been reminded of is the Melian dialogue in Thucydides' history of the Peloponnesian Wars, which you all are familiar with, I'm sure. The key passage is the line in which the Athenians tell the Melians, the strong do what they wish, the weak do what they must. And that's been in some ways the nature of the surreal conversation that has gone on for most of this week, consuming most of our time about Greenland. Passionate speeches about international law, which might have come from the mouths of the Melians, and then realist responses, which certainly recall the Athenians. There are a number of European leaders here who I want to ask a question. When all the fine speeches have been made about support for Ukraine, I would love to understand why the pace of European rearmament is still so slow. Because it's one thing to commit to increase your defense spending to 3% or even 5% of GDP. It's another to actually do something, to procure the weapons, to modernize the defense forces of Europe. Let me take the example of Denmark. Denmark has very nobly delivered a very large proportion of its arms to Ukraine. I think my friend Moritz Schulrich's Kiel Institute has shown that it's probably delivered one of the largest percentages of its own arms to Ukraine, which is noble. But it's rather Melian if you don't then replace those weapons with new ones and modern ones that meaningfully contribute to Europe's defense capabilities. You are so right, Yuri. Ukraine has become the defense force of the European Union. But where are the defense forces of the real European Union member states? It's unfortunate there are no German representatives here, because that's the key issue that nobody has yet touched on. Why is it that despite the fiscal commitments that have been made by the German government, which are of course an enormously important step, the pace of German rearmament is so painfully slow? Eric Schmidt is one of those people who's making a huge effort to scale Ukrainian drone production. Think what a difference it would make if Germany today announced Operation Warp Speed for German rearmament, huge new gigafactories to scale the technology that the Ukrainians have pioneered, so that not just 3 or 4 million drones can be produced, but 10, 15 million drones. Nothing will change Putin's calculus more decisively than a meaningful increase in the pace of European rearmament. Speeches at Davos aren't going to do it, folks, no matter how passionate they are. But real and meaningful German rearmament, and I'll say also European rearmament, that's another matter. So I would urge my European friends, be a little less Melian and a bit more Athenian, and let's send a signal that no Russian dictator will ever be able to misunderstand because of your actions, President Putin, you have required, necessitated something that the Germans hoped they would not have to do. And that is a very rapid rearmament, which I hope will lead a general European rearmament. If any of my European friends would like to comment on this, I would very much like to hear what they are doing to bring about Operation Warp Speed and a meaningful European military response to the Russian threat. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Neil. Your European friends are indeed itching to comment on this. Mark Rutte is practically jumping out of his chair. Mark, the floor is yours.
No, but thanks for the challenge. Of course, I speak for NATO, and NATO is 50% US, and the other 50% are the other 31 allies. But amongst them, of course, outside, next to Canada, we have 30 allies in Europe. I agree with your speech when it would be about weapons delivered to Ukraine. I agree what you said about Denmark, and that they have delivered huge amounts of weapons to Ukraine, and many other countries also did. But it's not sustainable in the way it's going on now, because too many countries are not doing enough. There I would agree with your speech. I do not agree with your speech when it comes to the rearmament of Europe, and particularly not Germany. And I'm going to defend them. Germany spent in 2021 70 billion of their annual budget on defense. By 2029, that will have been risen to 160 billion. I opened a factory in Unterlüß in Germany, which is a factory providing with ammunition, 155 caliber. They have built that factory from nothing. There were sheep grazing there to having that factory fully automated opened in 14 months. Normally, it would take you 10 years to only get the paperwork in order. Now, in 14 months, from nothing to a full factory. This is what Germany is doing at the moment. They will massively grow their armed forces. And this is not only Germany, this is many countries. So I agree with you when it comes to support for Ukraine. It has to be more spread. It cannot only be dependent on Norway, the Netherlands, Canada, Denmark, Germany, and a couple of other countries. There we need to have the burden sharing. But when it comes to the rearmament, I think what you said is right. We have to do it, but it is happening, and that's the good news.
Prime Minister, you